You wake up, you try to sit up, and you can't. You try to turn your head. It won't move. Your arms won't lift above your chest. You can't reach the food beside you. You can't clean yourself. You can't stand. You have been like this since you were a boy. Except it isn't you. It's a man who died 4,000 years ago, and everything left of him is a curl of bones in a museum in Vietnam. We call him Burial 9. And what his skeleton reveals breaks the single oldest thing we believe about the ancient world. Here's what we think we know about the ancient world. Every calorie mattered. Every mouth had to earn itself. The group moved, and if you couldn't move with it, you were left behind. Survival of the fittest. It's the oldest thing we believe about ourselves. A man who couldn't sit up, couldn't feed himself, couldn't contribute a single thing. That man should have been dead within a week. Burial 9 lived like that for 10 more years. The question is, how? He was excavated from a cemetery in northern Vietnam. Everyone else in the ground was laid out straight. He was buried curled up, because that was the only shape his body could make. The bones tell the whole story. He was paralyzed from the waist down before he even reached his teens. Whatever his group did to survive, fishing, hunting, moving camp, he did none of it. He could not bring them food. He could not carry anything. He could not defend anyone. He could not even roll himself over. 10 years is not survival. 10 years is a decision. Someone made it every single day. 10 years. Someone fed him. Every day. Someone gave him water. Every day. Someone cleaned him. Someone turned his body so his skin wouldn't rot against the ground. Someone carried him when the camp moved, not once, not for a season, for 10 years. Now one man could be an accident, one kind family, one unusual group. So let's go backwards. A cave in the mountains of Iraq, 50,000 years ago. Not our species, a Neanderthal. Archaeologists nicknamed him Nandi. His right arm ends below the elbow. The left side of his face was crushed by a blow, and he was probably blind in that eye. He walked with a bad limp. He was deaf. Think about what that means. In a landscape full of predators, he could not hear them coming. A deaf, half-blind, one-armed man with a limp should not survive a single night out there. He lived into his 40s. 50,000 years isn't far enough. Keep going. Northern Spain, 500,000 years ago. Before Neanderthals. Before us. They found an old man with a spine so bent he would have needed a stick just to stand. He could not hunt. He died past 45. And they found a child. A skull that had fused wrong. The bones locked shut while the brain was still growing. Most animals abandon youngborn like this. Almost immediately. This child lived for years. Further, Georgia. 1.77 million years ago. This isn't a human. This is Homo erectus. A creature with a brain about half the size of yours. They found his skull. He had lost every tooth but one, and the bone had grown over the empty sockets, which means he lived for years without them. Now he ate raw meat and tough plants. With no teeth in that world, being toothless is a death sentence, unless someone soft-fed him. Marrow, brains, berries. Someone chewing food into a paste for an old man with a brain half the size of yours. 2 million years before language, before religion, before anyone wrote down a rule telling them to. But there's an obvious objection, and for years it was the serious one. Maybe this wasn't kindness. Maybe it was investment. The old man knows where the water is. The one-armed man remembers the migration routes. You keep them alive because they still pay you back. Care is a trade, not compassion. Calculation. And then, in 2024, they scanned a piece of bone the size of a fingernail. A Neanderthal child from a cave in Spain. The inner ear was malformed in a very specific way. A pattern that points to Down syndrome. She would have had profound hearing loss, and vertigo so severe she'd have struggled to stand. She lived to 6 years old. A small child, in a group that had to move to survive. Who could not hunt, could not gather, could not carry, could not warn them, could not remember the water, who could never, in any sense, pay them back. They carried her anyway. Now I have to be careful with you. Bones don't record motive. We can prove a man survived. We cannot prove anyone loved him. Abandonment happened too. Under real starvation, some groups did leave people behind. The very old, the newborn. That's in the record as well, and anyone who tells you the ancient world was pure tenderness is selling you something. And there's a sharper problem. Last year, researchers pushed back on the story of Nandi, the deaf Neanderthal, arguing we've spent decades describing him as a helpless invalid, a burden who had to be kept alive, when maybe he adapted, maybe he worked, maybe he was useful in ways a skeleton simply cannot show us. And we assumed helplessness because that's what we assume about disabled people now. That's not a smaller story, that's a bigger one. And here's the thing that moves this out of the realm of touching anecdotes. In 2025, a team went through the bones of 189 hunter-gatherers from across Patagonia. Not famous individuals, ordinary people. About 1 in 5 had suffered a real injury, and in roughly 1 in 8 of those cases, the injury was severe enough to need months of care, or a lifetime of it. This wasn't a rare miracle performed by unusually good people. Caring for someone who couldn't stand up was a normal, expected, ordinary part of being alive. So it goes. Older than religion, older than law, older than any philosopher who ever sat down to explain why we ought to be good to each other, older than our species. Nobody taught them to do this. Burial 9 lay on his side for 10 years, in a fetal curl, unable to lift his own head. And every single day someone came. You have been told your whole life that the ancient world would have thrown you away the moment you stopped being useful. It's the other way around. Being unable to work has not always meant being disposable. Our relationships run much deeper than just that.